Hello everyone, welcome back to the LSE Transfer Room YouTube channel, and this is the first video of a mini-series we've got going on throughout January, which is a loan analysis. And today we're joined by Ryan. I've found him across YouTube and he's had an excellent analysis on Ben Doak already. If you want to check that out, it's going to be much more in-depth than this video. But if you're here for just a general video, if you want to keep up to date with how Ben Doak's performing at Middlesbrough, and this video's for you. So we're just going to jump straight into it, Ryan. So how are you doing, actually, first and foremost?
I'm doing very good, mate. How are you?
Excellent. I'm doing very well as well. So I'm excited for this video because Ben Doak, he's created a good name for himself amongst the Liverpool fans, and we're excited to see what he can do possibly in a Liverpool shirt in the future. So we're going to jump into it. First question: what has been the reaction to Ben Doak from Middlesbrough fans?
Yeah, Middlesbrough fans have been incredibly enthusiastic about him, and I think there's the quite strong belief amongst them that if they were to lose Ben Doak at this point in the season, that would seriously dampen their promotion hopes. And for a team to be that reliant on a 19-year-old, it might be seen as something really bad, really negative, but it just shows how good of a player he is.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned, they could lose him in this window. In fact, I think Crystal Palace have been linked with him, and even Ipswich. So. And those are permanent deals, so it could be a huge loss for Middlesbrough, of course. But moving on, how well is he actually playing? You said that it's maybe a bit of a bad thing to be over reliant on a 19-year-old. So we can assume he's playing well, but how well is he playing, and what system is he currently being used in?
Yeah, he's playing really well. I mean, physically for his first loan in senior football to go to the Championship and do that well, and technically to progress as well as he has, he's doing amazing. And he's playing in a 4-2-3-1, just like Liverpool, quite free-flying attacking system. Middlesbrough are the second highest scorers in the Championship, so he's contributed to a lot of their attacking success. He plays on the right of that, so he's playing really well in it. He's got support from a sort of underlapping/overlapping fullback, so yeah, he's doing pretty well, and yeah, Carrick's 4-2-3-1 system is brilliant.
You touched on it. He's doing good at the moment, but in terms of style of winger, what would you say he's more like at the moment? We've obviously got a variety of wingers. You know, Luis Diaz is much more sort of dribbler. Cody Gakpo is much more direct. He's going to cut in and take that shot. Mo Salah can just do a bit of everything. Even Jota, to an extent, can play left wing, and we've even been linked with Kvaratskhelia. I hope I'm not pronouncing his name wrong. Over the past 24 hours. What kind of winger would you say Ben Doak is?
Yeah, I'd say he's mostly similar to Luis Diaz, more than anybody else. I think he's direct, not in the same sense that Mo Salah is. Obviously, Salah picks up the ball very high and his output's ridiculous in the final third. But Doak is more of a touchline winger that can bring it into the penalty area. That's how he's direct. He'll take the ball with his feet and bring it into the final third and create a lot of chances.
Again, sounding good. So what would you say has been his standout quality so far for Middlesbrough?
Definitely his dribbling. His dribbling is very, very good. As I say, you know, he can receive it with his feet and take it forward and skip by players, but he can also run in behind with space, receive it long from a centre-back. So he's really good in that department and taking the ball forward himself single-handedly, the type of player that gives you momentum as a team. And I'd say it's his ability to go either way as a winger. It makes him very direct. He can cut inside onto his left foot, shoot, cross, pass, shake chances. He's really good. And then I'd say he can go down to the byline as well, and he's got that burst of pace to beat his fullback, which makes him so unpredictable to come up against for a defender. And yeah, it's a nightmare for most Championship teams.
Absolutely, I think it's a nightmare in general for most fullbacks whenever they're coming across a winger. You could either cut inside or they can go out down the outside. It's a problem, and it's a good quality to have for a Liverpool winger, I guess. So we've touched on a lot of the positives. What would you say are some areas of weakness that you've identified in Ben Doak this season?
Yeah, weaknesses. It feels harsh to talk about weaknesses for a 19-year-old in his first senior season, but his 2 goals probably is a bit of a standout for his weaknesses. When he gets into the final third, he's very good at taking it there and creating chances, but when it comes to taking those chances himself, I think a lot of his shots are quite easy for the goalkeeper to deal with, but he's raw, that's fine, that will improve. Sometimes, because he loves to take the defender 1v1 and slow the play down and then suddenly just burst into pace, he slows it down too much and then it gives the opponents time to get back, numbers back, and then by the time he's got an opportunity, he has to go back because he's outnumbered. And then I'd say He's very determined to get back, which isn't a bad thing. He recovers pace really well, so the right back's never really left alone. But sometimes he's just a bit too determined, which when he goes into a tackle, when it pays off, it's great, gets the crowd going and gives you a high turnover, but it's a lot of cheap fouls, and I think in the Premier League you don't really get away with them, and it comes quite frustrating for oppositions. And when Liverpool dominates against lower teams, teams will look for a cheap foul to give them a breather, to slow the tempo and frustrate Liverpool. So those are some weaknesses, but they can be definitely improved on.
Yeah, sounds very reminiscent of his Scottish teammate Robertson giving away cheap fouls, being very maybe over the top in terms of determination.
Yeah.
But again, that they actually kind of sound very similar to current few Liverpool players. I think Curtis Jones is one who can be accused of controlling the ball for maybe too long and not releasing it. Maybe even Luis Diaz to an extent. Whilst I do appreciate Luis Diaz's quality though, and you have touched on his goal scoring record. He's playing right winger. Salah is producing absolutely astronomical, goals and assists, not just this season or over the past 7-8 years, however long he's been at Liverpool. And obviously, whoever comes in, he's always going to be compared to Mo Salah, which is very unfair because no one's ever going to reach that sort of similar numbers.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Can you touch on more key stats that he's been producing? Like you said, two goals. It isn't great, but are there any more that you can highlight?
Yeah, well, he's got 6 assists, which I feel like the assists kind of stays a little bit outdated because you can pass a ball 1 yard and it might be an assist, like Sergio Busquets when Messi ran for the entire team. But he's third in the most goal creating actions, which kind of tells you a little bit more than assists, actions before that. He's got the most carries into the penalty area, which is why he's so direct. Second most progressive carries. He's got 41 key passes, so that's like the 5th, 6th in the championship for chances created. So he's really good in terms of stats. When I do a video on play, I always look for stats. He's a very easy one to find because he's just, near the top for a lot of metrics, which makes it, just so easy to do research. So he's very direct and takes the ball into the penalty area really fast. So definitely a really efficient player.
No, good stuff. I think Liverpool fans know Michael Edwards loves his data, and maybe Richard Hughes does as well. So maybe they're looking at these key stats, and hopefully he can come good for Liverpool in the coming seasons. But more about Middlesbrough. What has Michael Carrick said about Ben Doak?
Yeah, Carrick's he's been buzzing about him, to be honest. But like any top manager, he's doing very, very well for Middlesbrough. Attractive style of play. He's very cautious about him. Youngsters, you don't want to get them too ahead of themselves. He had a lot to say about him performing on the international stage against Croatia as well. So he's incredibly enthusiastic about him, and he probably would be very gutted if he was to lose him at this point of the season now. Yeah,
and that's certainly interesting to hear. So, would you say there's a consistency to his performances, or is he very an on and off player?
Yeah, he's had some off games against Leeds. It didn't quite work. Obviously, Leeds probably the best team in the division, so you can kind of give him, one off there. But he's been very consistent. He's had some great performances against Luton. He picks up a load of goals. I think they've hit 6 past Oxford, 5 past Luton, 4 away at QPR. So they've been in free-flowing form. And Doak's the type of player that you give him the ball and he'll bring it forward for you, give you momentum and kind of win you a game. So they are a little bit reliant on him at times, but he's been very consistent with his performances, especially for a 19-year-old first senior season, and I think that's what makes him so special because, a lot of players can be good going through the academy, go out on loan, and particularly to the championship, and physically and technically they're not it, and they're not quite good enough, which separates them from Ben Doak, in my opinion, who is smashing already.
Well, that's interesting. That swiftly moves us on to the next question. Initially I was going to ask you how would you compare him as a youth player compared to the other youth in the Middlesbrough squad? But I'm going to ask how would you actually compare him to the rest of the youth in the Championship? I already saw he won Young Player of the Month award, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he's a massive standout in terms of Middlesbrough. I'd say he's a standout in terms of Liverpool. Now, there's a lot of good academy players there, but in terms of loanees, he's probably doing amongst the best. Championship, there's always a lot of great youth players coming through. Joe Bellingham, for example, gets a lot of headlines for the Bellingham name, but also that he's very good. But Ben Doak is massively standout because of the type of player that he is. I think it's easier for a sort of creative player like that to stand out. It's like, Eden Hazard so great on the ball. Neymar stands out. He's that type of player who can make football quite enjoyable to watch, and I think Ben Doak brings that to the Championship. And yeah, you'll always watch out for him when Middlesbrough play. So he's definitely stand out in our Championship, and even in terms of his ability, I think he's a leading Championship player.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan's just described Ben Doak as a Scottish Neymar and Scottish Eden Hazard, so that's good news going forward. But I've been saying going forward a lot, Liverpool in the coming seasons, does he actually have a future? Can you see a future at Liverpool? Because I want you to be as honest as you can. A lot of players from academies, when you're at top teams, they do get hyped up quite a lot, and eventually, sadly, they don't end up making it at that level, just because the level is so incredibly high. Can you see Ben Doak possibly succeeding at Liverpool in the future?
I'd say yes. I think if he was to come into the first team on that right-hand side and Mo Salah's not there anymore, I think there does need to be a burden taken away from him, particularly somebody else in a different position that is maybe an X-factor player who has great output like Salah. Obviously, that's very difficult to replace, but there's a lot of pressure coming through. But I think it can work into his hands. Obviously, Liverpool have been let down a lot, maybe particularly players like Jordan Ibe, obviously a long time ago, but hot prospects didn't quite make it. So I think if he flows under the radar a little bit, maybe in pre-season, maybe back up to somebody else like Salah, I think he can come in, shock everybody, and he can use that to his effects. Maybe not thrown straight into the first team as a starting right winger to slowly progress inwards to the team. Maybe how Harvey Elliott might progress, and Curtis Jones and many other Liverpool prospects. But yeah, he definitely has a pathway to the first team, but it's whether if Liverpool run into any PSR struggles, it'll be a very easy way out. And you could put a buyback clause onto him as well in case it doesn't work. But yeah.
Yeah, well, it's certainly interesting to hear, because I think his valuation was 30 million. Liverpool are demanding, and as a 19-year-old at this moment, being 30 million valued, he's had one loan move to Middlesbrough. It's quite impressive stuff as well. And everything you've described, it sounds like it's all going well for him at the moment. And we're going to be sure to touch on more players throughout this loan analysis series on our YouTube channel. Lewis Kumas, sorry. There's a few more players out on loan at the moment, but a huge thank you to Ryan for joining us. Out of 10, what would you say Ben Doak, what rating would you give him at the moment for his loan spell at Middlesbrough?
I'd say, 9. It couldn't really get much better, apart from his maybe shooting and, goals and assist stats. I think everybody looks at that, but for a 19-year-old first senior season, it's incredible what he's doing. And 9 out of 10 seems very fair.
Well, that is impressive stuff, and it's really good to hear, I think, because a lot of the time loan moves that either work or they either don't, and this one clearly is working. So a huge thank you to Ryan again. You can check out his video. You can check out his YouTube channel. All links are going to be in the description for his Ben Doak analysis video. As already mentioned, there's a lot more in depth than this. This was just a general sort of catch up on how Ben Doak is performing, as we're going to be doing for our whole loan analysis series. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you all in the next video.